Senhoras e senhores, vamos dar prosseguimento ao Congresso Internacional Six Sigma Brasil. E quem vai fazer agora a apresentação, meu caríssimo Ricardo Vilaça. Uma salva de palmas para o Ricardo. Beleza? Vamos lá.
Bom dia a todos, sejam bem-vindos. Teremos agora um participante internacional, Dick Theisens e Milena Andrade. Dick Theisens, eu vou falar o currículo dele em inglês, pessoal, porque foi pedido para que nós o apresentássemos em inglês. In today's globally competitive marketplace, it's important for all business and organizations, whether manufacturing, service or IT, to focus on continuous improvement and customer satisfaction by effectively applying Lean Six Sigma. Organizations can supply products or services with outstanding quality and cost, efficiently delivering within shortened lead times. Having graduated from University of Twente, exiled the Netherlands in 1994, Theisens developed the experience on process improvement and consulting in the automotive and high-tech industry at Texas Instruments, Sensata Technologies, Thales, VDL, and several other companies. During a period of 25 years, he has supported organizations developing continuous improvement initiatives in a wide range of industries in Netherlands, Mexico, and Malaysia. Theisens executed and coached around its 50 Lean Six Sigma projects. In 21 and 22, he was leading the Dutch Lean Corona vaccination team. Currently, Theisens is director and master black belt of Symbol BV and consultancy and training company in the Netherlands that is specialized in continuous improvement. Theisens is a guest lecturer of University of Twente and is a founder of the Lean Six Sigma Academy, LSSA, which is the scheme owner of the Lean Six Sigma certification program. His publications. This is author of successful Lean Six Sigma book series, Climb the Mountain, which consists of test books and exercise books in the yellow, orange, green, and black belt level. The first book was published in 2014. More than 30,000 copies have now been sold in this series, and he was helped many in developing continuous improvement organization and solving challenging problems. In 2021, a completely revised edition of the series was published according to the last version of the CIMM framework and the LSSA skill. E Milena Andrade, que o acompanhará, é diretora-geral da Academy Brasil, é formada em administração de empresas pela FAAP, com MBA em marketing pela ISPM e coordena a operação do Academy no país há 12 anos. Sejam bem-vindos, uma salva de palmas aos nossos próximos dois palestrantes.
Você viu que o meu currículo foi mais fácil, né, para falar do que o do Theisens aqui. Gente, um prazer enorme estar aqui. Na verdade, eu vou fazer só uma rápida abertura, vou dar uma contextualizada, trazer um pouco de informação. Nem todo mundo conhece o Exim. E agora a gente está, né, fazendo aí uma parceria com a LSSA, então a ideia é que vocês entendam um pouquinho da história do Exim e como é que essa parceria chega até aqui. Depois eu trago o Dick para bater um papo com vocês. Bom, eu sou responsável pela operação do Exim. Esse currículo já ficou desatualizado, são 13 anos, né? Então tem mais um ano na conta aí, 13 anos cuidando da operação. E eu queria contar um pouco para vocês o que faz o Exim exatamente. Essa foto que vocês estão vendo, eu trouxe aqui só para a gente ilustrar um pouco, isso aqui é o começo da operação do Exim. Então o Exim nasceu, estamos celebrando esse ano 38 anos de existência, então são quase 4 décadas que existe o Instituto, né, o Exim. E ele nasceu de uma demanda de uma área do governo na Holanda que precisava capacitar, treinar e certificar os profissionais. Então, assim começou a operação. Isso aqui é o embrião. Então, assim se faziam os exames antigamente. Olha que legal. Isso é uma foto real do início da operação. Hoje, a gente tem alguns parceiros do Exim que estão, inclusive, expondo e estão participando do evento. A gente tem as provas remotas, tem todo um trabalho, né, totalmente digital por trás, todo um modelo que, muito antes de pandemia, a gente já tem aí pelo menos há uns 9 anos as provas no sistema de monitoramento remoto, com segurança. Então, quando a gente vê a diferença, o que aconteceu no mundo nesse tempo, a gente começa a entender, inclusive, do ponto de vista de transformação do próprio portfólio do Exim, que eu vou falar um pouquinho mais para frente. O ano passado, a SID, que é uma outra empresa holandesa, ela adquiriu o Exim. Então, a gente agora faz parte do grupo da SID, Software Improvement Group. Então, um trabalho muito interessante, porque eles têm toda uma frente de trabalho na linha de qualidade em software, monitoramento, né? E eles trabalham muito na linha dos processos e da tecnologia, e o Exim era a ponta que faltava, que é exatamente a parte das pessoas, porque a gente trabalha na certificação, na capacitação através dos parceiros de treinamento e na certificação através dos exames do Exim. Essa foto aqui, um encontro desse ano, a gente teve um encontro anual juntando as duas empresas. Então, interessante para a gente ver, do ponto de vista de equipe, às vezes o pessoal pergunta um pouco, né, que cara tem o Exim. E aí eu trouxe aqui, né, 2 carinhas para compartilhar com vocês. Aqui a gente tem o Michiel, né, o Michiel ele é o CEO do Exim, e o Dick, que está aqui ao meu lado e daqui a pouco vai falar com vocês. Isso aqui foi esse ano, quando eles estavam celebrando aí o acordo de parceria. Aqui começou a nossa operação. E tem mais novidade, além das certificações, né, quem navegar no site do Exim vai encontrar um link lá sobre a Astrid. Quem é a Astrid, né? A Astrid é uma ferramenta, é uma solução. A gente já tem um trabalho de muito tempo. Quem conhece um pouco dos produtos do Exim, todos os programas têm um mapeamento com um framework internacional chamado ECF, E-Competence Framework, que mapeia em torno de 40 competências para os profissionais da área de TI e negócios. Todos os programas do Exim têm uma ficha técnica que mostra, você fazendo aquele curso e aquela certificação, quais as competências com relação ao framework estão sendo cobertas. E o que a gente está trazendo agora? Uma ferramenta para que vocês possam utilizar, gratuita, entrar no site depois, não é agora, entra no site depois, façam lá o seu cadastro, né, respondam o questionário, é um assessment, ele está, por enquanto, em inglês. Então, quem tiver com inglês afiado pode fazer esse assessment, e ele vai dar todo o teu perfil com base nesse roteiro estruturado, e, inclusive, ele faz um benchmark, ele compara dentro do teu perfil possibilidades em termos de currículo, né? Ele compara job profiles com um benchmark internacional. Então, é bem interessante, quem tiver curiosidade, depois, por favor, dê uma passeada por lá. Isso aqui está pequenininho, mas na pasta de todos vocês tem essa informação, né? E o site do Exim traz isso bastante detalhado. Para quem não conhece, o Exim, ele, na verdade, ele tem 4 grandes blocos de conhecimento. A gente tem todos os programas distribuídos em 4 grandes blocos de conhecimento. Uma linha de agilidade, DevOps e Lean, a parte de gestão de serviços e negócios, então aqui a gente tem programas ligados à parte de gerenciamento de serviços. Aqui a gente tem uma linha de proteção de dados e segurança, onde estão programas do Exim na área de segurança da informação, GDPR, LGPD, ethical hacking, cibersegurança. Aqui a gente tem a área das tecnologias, programas que rodam aqui no Brasil, inteligência artificial, blockchain, cloud. O foco do Exim sempre foi as certificações para os profissionais da área de TI e negócios. E aí o que acontece? Quando a gente pega esse grupo de conhecimento aqui, que é a área de Agile, DevOps e Lean, a gente começa, inclusive, a ter intersecção com outras áreas. A gente tem um foco na área de TI, mas esse barra negócios é porque a gente tem programas que encostam em outras áreas. E assim começou, inclusive, esse namoro com a própria LSSA, para que a gente pudesse fazer essa parceria e trazer uma área nova, que é a área do Lean Six Sigma. Então, quem passou lá no stand deve ter visto algumas informações, mas estarei também o resto do dia aqui com vocês, se alguém tiver mais alguma dúvida. Na linha de cima, no site também tem bastante detalhes sobre isso, a gente tem as trilhas de carreira. O que significa isso? As trilhas de carreira são sugestões que o próprio Exim traz para o profissional, onde ele faz uma combinação de conhecimentos importantes para que vocês desempenhem melhor determinados papéis. A gente tem uma lista que é pré-definida. Então, a formação do DPO, do Data Protection Officer, formação do Information Security Officer, uma formação para o Digital Transformation Officer. Então, a gente tem algumas sugestões que normalmente combinam os programas que estão aqui embaixo, justamente por a gente atuar em várias frentes. Uma das trilhas mais novas que a gente acabou de trazer, ela tem, inclusive, já uma correlação com o lançamento da Lean Six Sigma Academy, junto com o Exim aqui no Brasil. A gente está falando, né, do Digital Service Manager. O que significa isso? Aqui eu vou abrir maiorzinho para vocês conhecerem o nosso grupo de agilidade, DevOps e Lean. Na linha de Agile Scrum, são 4 programas que rodam no Brasil. Interessante que com o tempo que a gente tem de operação e a amplitude, né, da operação brasileira, a gente tem o maior número de produtos traduzidos estão no idioma português. A operação do Brasil é bastante forte dentro do contexto do Exim internacional. Então, hoje a gente conta com as provas em português para quase todos os programas que estão disponíveis lá fora. Esses 4, a parte de agilidade, a gente tem o Lean IT Foundation, a gente tem a linha de DevOps, o Kanban, que é um lançamento que acabou de acontecer, entrou esse mês para a gente, essa semana ele entrou em sistema, a gente rodou turmas piloto recentemente, várias pessoas participaram, e aí a gente tem aqui agora a nossa linha do Lean Six Sigma, onde a gente entra com o Yellow, o Green e o Black Belt, com provas em português, que era uma carência que a gente tinha no mercado nacional. Então, nesse contexto, né, a gente vai trazer aqui um bate-papo mais detalhado com vocês. As trilhas de carreira que eu comentei são as formações combinadas. No site tem bastante informação a respeito disso, tem página em português para tudo. Aqui o nosso destaque, né, para o que eu acabei de falar, a formação do Digital Service Manager, a gente tem uma linha dela que é a linha de otimização. E ela também tem uma área de intersecção com vocês aqui. A gente está falando, né, nesse contexto de mundo digital, né, que a gente está vivendo, a gente está falando da parte da gestão de serviços, com 3 frentes diferentes, a área de transformação, uma área de integração, múltiplos fornecedores, cada vez mais complexo esse ambiente, e uma área de otimização. Aí a gente foca na área de processos, na parte de melhoria contínua, e aqui entra a linha da LSSA em conjunto com o Exim. Além dos módulos individuais, não se preocupe com esse excesso de informação, mas a gente está falando desta área aqui, ó, a formação do Digital Service Manager numa linha de otimização. Como é que funciona essa combinação? Para quem no futuro tiver interesse, a gente está falando de 2 certificações de base que você precisa ter aqui, e na linha do módulo avançado, o Green Belt, ele já entra nessa combinação. Então, essa é uma nova trilha de carreira, que é a do gestor de serviços digitais, com foco em otimização. Então, interessante porque a gente tem todos esses programas que a gente está falando nesta linha aqui, eles estão também em português. Parceiros entregando treinamentos em português e as provas também em português. Bom, do ponto de vista, né, de abertura, na verdade, não era uma palestra da minha parte, era mais uma contextualização para vocês entenderem um pouquinho, quem ainda não conhece o que é o Exim, os programas de certificação. E agora a gente vai trazer o Dick para falar um pouco mais a respeito, né, especificamente do programa. E aqui a gente deixou para vocês esse código, a gente vai disponibilizar depois, o pessoal da organização fica com ele também. Quem ainda não tem esse código, a gente vai fazer no final da apresentação dele o sorteio dos 3 kits que a gente anunciou desde ontem, mas para quem não ganhar não precisa ficar triste, tem aqui um desconto que a gente está deixando aí como benefício para todo mundo que está participando e vale para qualquer certificação do Exim, ok? É isso, da minha parte, recados dados. E agora eu vou passar a palavra para quem realmente vai fazer a apresentação. Dick, the floor is yours.
Muito obrigado, Malena. So, I come from the Netherlands, so sorry, I have to switch over to English. I hope it's not a problem for you. At least it's a problem for me to talk Portuguese. So, my name is Dick Theisens. I had already a very extensive introduction. Just one more thing to add. My LinkedIn profile is there, so if you can find me, I will accept your invite, please. Okay? So, today I would like to talk to you through things. I would like to explain the continuous improvement maturity model, which is the framework of our Lean Six Sigma program. And I have brought 2 case studies. One is a Lean case study, about the vaccination process in the Netherlands, and one is a case study about Six Sigma, applying Six Sigma in the automotive industry. Before I do that, I would like to take with you the continuous improvement history. Most of you are already black belt, I've heard, so it's an audience full of experts here. And you can see here many people that contributed in the past 100 years on this method, Lean and Six Sigma. If that's there already for 100 years, it must be something good, otherwise it would not be there anymore. So first of all, you see some people from the East, and many of the things that were contributed by the people there, from Deming and Imai and Ono and Shingo, is pretty much in line with what the former speaker, Mrs. Aoki, mentioned about the blue tree. So it's a lot about respect and discipline and people and behavior, those kind of things. At the same time, in the West, in America and also in Europe, we worked on Six Sigma approach. It is about a lot of techniques and management philosophy. And only in 2008, like 15 years ago, it's not a certain fixed date, but around 15 years ago, these two worlds came together. And I liked both of these worlds, and I'm very happy these are now together now. Because I met people that mentioned to me, oh, we can solve any problem with Lean. And other people say, no, we can solve any problem with Six Sigma. Well, neither is true. You need both. So the combination of Lean and Six Sigma, I'm a fully believer in the combination of both. And I will explain you a little bit why. The second thing that happened around 15 years ago is that these methods were brought outside the industry and the automotive, also in other industries, other sectors, like healthcare, like government, like transactional processes, and even IT. So the whole world now is using these methods. They can be used in a lot of different disciplines. So let me take you a little bit with the SIM framework that we developed along our Lean Six Sigma certification process. It consists of 5 levels, you can see there, and I will explain the 5 levels later on in the next slides. This is what we call the blue era. These are the techniques. But I think we, as Six Sigma, Lean Six Sigma belts, we have been focusing too much on techniques in the past decades. It's not only about techniques and statistics. It's also about people. It's about behavior. So it's about responsibility. So we added a second axis to it, which is about the people, the who. And I think the most success can be made with the second axis. So most of us, if we solve problems, we follow the DMIC approach. Even in Lean projects, you can follow the DMIC approach. It comes from Six Sigma, but you can do it in Lean as well. We added something not to solve a project, to solve a problem, to project execution, but we added a framework to develop organizations. And if you are entering a certain organization, and you as an expert are asked, where do we start? What would be your next steps? And you take along your whole toolkit, your whole bag with techniques, which is more than 100 techniques. What do you apply first? This organization wants to develop, and they are at a certain point. Let's say they are here, and they want to develop to the next step. Yeah, thanks. So you have to build this organization. When you enter the organization, the first step you want to do is make sure they have a solid foundation. So what does it mean, a solid foundation? If an organization is disorganized and it's a mess, and piles of materials and stuff are over there all the place, so you cannot start with Lean. You have to start by cleaning up. Agree? So one of the first steps is a technique like 5S. And I'm not going to explain the technique because most of you know it. 5S is about creating a professional and safe work environment. The second thing is about standardized work. Like Ono said, as long as there is no standards, there's no way you can improve. If people are not working in the same way, there's a lot of variation and a lot of variance in the outputs. So you need to work according to certain standards. This is very difficult. I met many companies that they have very good persons to work in processes, but they are all doing it in their own way, in different ways. So the standard is missing. I think the standardization is one of the most important points to add when you start implementing Lean and Six Sigma. The second level is about creating a continuous improvement culture. And even the name culture, it's already the big challenge, because culture is about people, it's about behavior, it's about changing the way people work together. So this is not about techniques, it's about people. So what we introduced there at the second level is performance management. I think this is one of the most important elements when you start implementing continuous improvement in an organization. It's about bringing people together, either if it's daily or weekly, you have stand-up meetings, you talk about performance of the day, you talk about what is expected from people by the end of the day, the output or the quality. So these stand-up meetings also, if you implement Agile with Scrum meetings, that you have the stand-up meetings as well. So performance management is one of the most important elements, I think, there in the second level. And on 5S, as we implemented 5S in the first level, the next step on making the organization, let's say, more professional, more visual, you can add lines on the floor and standards for coloring and baskets and those kind of things. Is what we call the visual workplace. Also an element in the second level. And of course, problem solving. If you have these performance stand-up meetings and you see a problem, this problem should be solved. And in the second level, we introduce Kaizen. Kaizen is a simple technique, not complicated Six Sigma techniques, no statistics, just problem solving with the people from the shop floor, not following the DMIC, which is complicated and it takes too long, so implementing PDCA, Kaizen projects with people from the shop floor. What I see very often is that these Kaizens take a long time. They take months sometimes, which is not good. According to me, I think a Kaizen should not take longer than 1, maybe 2 weeks. If it's more time, you should consider a DMI project on another level, but not on the shop floor. Only then, if in the third level, we talk about Lean. So this is a nice picture from Ford. I say always that Lean started with Ford by introducing the belt, because then at that time, by introducing the belt, the principle flow was introduced in manufacturing, which is one of the main principles in Lean, of course. So on the third level, you work with according Lean principles. You see the 5 Lean principles on the left, and you can see the 8 types of waste. So the third level is about looking for value, looking for the value stream, identifying and eliminating waste. You can only do that if the first 2 levels are already there in place at a certain amount. You don't have to be perfect on 5S, you don't have to be perfect on Kaizen projects before you go to Lean, but at least there should be some level of basics there before you go to really Lean value stream mapping. The fourth level is about Six Sigma. It's about creating capable processes. Here comes the statistics in mind. But as you know, probably, I hope you do know, that you cannot apply statistics on a process which is not stable, because you will get unstable data set. So you can apply statistics, of course, but the outcome does not make any sense. You cannot do a design of experiment or a capability analysis if the data is not from a stable process. So that is where I think it's very important that first Lean is there at a certain point before you go to the next level. In my career, I worked 25 years in process improvement, continuous improvement. In the first 10 years at Texas Instruments, which was then working in automotive industry. And I went many times to Mexico, where they have their plants, and they were building products, sensors for the automotive, for brake systems. And when there was a problem, I started very often with Six Sigma to get the data, to visualize the data, But as soon as you see there are instabilities in the data set, you should not think about the design of experiments or that kind of level of techniques. You should think about the basics, about standardized work, about maintenance of machines, about maintenance of equipment, those kind of things. So still you can follow the DMIC and you can take some parts of the Six Sigma techniques, but not only statistics. And that is what I see very often. If I see now people that bring me a project that I have to verify for certification, that sometimes this mistake is made, that people continue with statistic approach, although the data set is not stable. So in this level you can follow the DMIC. Even in the level 3 you can follow the DMIC, of course. And the main thing here is about improving capability, reducing variation. And there's a whole bunch of tools that you can use for that, of course. And we use Minitab for solving all these challenges with data. Of course, there are other software, but I'm a very fan of Minitab to solve these problems with. So then the fifth level. The fifth level is about implementing, introducing all these techniques also in product development, design for Six Sigma, for instance. But you see also nowadays that many new techniques are introduced on all the levels. So according to me, the fifth level is not about only the things that are mentioned on the fifth level there, but also to take a look what is available on new techniques, on software, on approaches that you can use even on the lower levels. So these whiteboards, maybe you have to replace them with Power BI or ClickView approaches. Or you have to take a look at process mining, which I think is a very modern new thing of that replacing value stream mapping. So there's many different techniques introduced lately. Okay. This is about developing an organization. And some people ask me, this is the work of a master black belt. Yes, it is, but I think also a black belt should be able to understand this and to introduce organizational development to the organization, not only solving DMIC problems, but also giving the proper advice to a company where they are and what should be done next. To support that, in our black belt books, we've introduced an assessment that can be used to see where you are. This is an example what comes out, and you see two lines, the blue line and the orange line. So this assessment can be filled in not only by the black belt, but by the entire organization, and you can consolidate the outcome. And you can see that the blue line represents the techniques. Yeah, maybe standard meetings are there, but maybe people do not show the proper behavior. Maybe they don't come on time, they don't attribute, they're not prepared, management is not supporting the people. That's all kind of behavior. If that behavior is not at a certain level, then the technique standard meetings will not be successful. So that is why we think even the assessment should be done on people as well. So again, this is in the black belt books that we have available also there for you. So I promised you to bring two case studies. The first one is about a level 3 project. As was mentioned in the introduction, I was the project leader of the lean vaccination team in the Netherlands. So we were consisting of 5 people. And it was a very nice project to do because we contributed to the people. And if the process is more efficient, then less people get to hospital. So it was for us a very nice project to contribute to. In the Netherlands, we have it was 150 locations, so probably it's not that much as you have in Brazil here. And it consists of 1,200 vaccination lines. And I can remember that when we started, I was in the car with my wife. We were on a private tour, and we were called by Utrecht. Utrecht had one of the biggest vaccination locations in the Netherlands. I think it consisted of 40 lines. And they were calling us, can you help us? Because we have long waiting lines outside. People are in the rain outside waiting to get in. And actually inside, it was not that busy. So they were struggling with those questions about how to streamline the process. And because it was all new, even for me, because I have never been working in a vaccination location, neither have they have. Some locations were supported by green and black belts, but other locations were just people from healthcare that knew about how to set the vaccine, but they had no clue about process mapping, about waiting lines, about those kind of things. So we were helping. These are some of the pictures that you can see. The girl in the middle, by the way, was the first person in the Netherlands that got her vaccine. And we were helping them from April 21 till this summer. It was a crisis at that moment, you can imagine. You were in there as well. So the objectives changed almost every couple days. We had to work somewhere else, and we were there at 50 different locations on site. And I was there for the first time. I've never seen a vaccination location from close by. But we were able to help, to streamline the process, to balance the work from different locations, to put chairs and walls and lines in different locations than they were there. And in a couple hours, then the lines were gone. And that was very interesting. I had people walking with me, 7 people, making notes. Oh, what do we do next? What is our next step? And I didn't know. I just had to combine my experience from automotive and from other processes, but not from vaccination. Very interesting. We did a lot of visualization, of course, colors, lines, etc. This was one of the first layouts, because we had to learn as well. The first layouts were not that efficient. It's like 25 vaccines per hour for a line. As you can see here, we had a setup 2 administration process and 1 vaccine. And we had another setup, X administrations and I people of putting the vaccines, and they were a little bit faster, like 35. But still, that was not that much. We did a lot of time stamping, and it would be possible to go to close to 100 according to our measurements, but it was not possible in the beginning. So when the first crisis was over, we implemented setting vaccination in the waiting room. It was not that best way to do it. It was fast, but we also had new challenges then. You can see we had long lead times. We had a lot of people on site. So the process was fast, but we had a lot of inventory, people. And so we needed a lot of square meters and a lot of parking places. So that was not the solution for every location, because some locations were in the center of the city. They did not have the space. They did not have the parking places. So we had to come with something else again. But you can see the speed is very fast. So by the end of the process, we came up with this kind of location. You can see it's also a very high speed, but we had more people in a room that can set the vaccines at the same time. Just an example how lean principles and applying your lean experience from different sectors into a completely new sector. And I'm fully convinced that you can apply lean almost everywhere. So this is what we call a level 3 project. Just give me an example then of a level 4 project. Six Sigma. But before we go there, just a short break. Time changed fast. So this is a picture of 1900 in New York. And the question is, can you spot the car? Because you see a lot of horses. Somebody found the car? Let me help you. It's there. Yeah, difficult to see. Then, only a couple of years later, this is 1913. Same city, different streets, but now the question is, can you spot the horse? So remember, this is only 13 years. The horse is here. Okay? Remember, before I continue, that currently we are again in a fast-changing era, Industry 4.0, the 4th Industrial Revolution. Things are changing very rapidly. So, okay, this was 100 years ago. Talking about continuous improvement and Lean Six Sigma, this was developed along the history of cars. So the first car doesn't even look like a car, it's more like a steam engine on wheels, so forget about this one. But let's go to the real cars then. Ford, of course, we all know, and on the top you see the first car from Toyota after the World War. And then we see all the 60s and 80 cars. These are the cars that currently drive today on the road. And these are some of the future cars. So the development of continuous improvement is visualized by this picture. That's why I like this picture. You see that the cars change enormously, and also Lean and Six Sigma, continuous improvement approach changed drastically. And it will continue to change. If we take a look at cars, then on the short term, cars will be more interactive to each other. You will have more connection with your phone, connections, remote flashing of the computer of the car. And then in the middle, you see that the midterm, you'll see that cars will communicate to each other. This is not adaptive cruise control. This is communicating between cars to see where they are. And in the end, we're all waiting for the self-driving car. That will take a long time, I guess, especially the real self-driving car on the highest level. There are different levels of self-driving cars. That will take a long time. But what I would like to visualize here is that it's all about data. This is a lot of software which is added to cars. It's not longer only about mechanics and electronics. Software and IT becomes more and more important in cars. So what can the software industry learn from the automotive sector? Well, first of all, the supply chain is very, very complicated. In the beginning, the Ford car, most of the suppliers of Ford components were located close by the factory of Ford. So it was not that complicated as it is now today. Currently, a car consists of 30,000 parts, and the suppliers are all over the world. What you can see here is that the car itself, the manufacturers, is what we call OEM, original equipment manufacturers, and then around that you have 3 layers of suppliers, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And providing all the components just in time, in the right quality, you can imagine this is an enormous struggle, but it is there, it is working. It has the challenges, but it's working. The second thing that you can learn from the automotive industry is the level of quality. The level of quality, the demands for quality in automotive is very, very high. Because it's a car. It's a car that drives 100 kilometers an hour, sometimes even more. And if something goes wrong, people might be hurt, might even be killed. So quality is very important. When I was working at Texas Instruments, I worked one of the projects on this sensor. This is a sensor that goes in a brake system. Because of a cost reduction, we had to go from 2 sensors, one was a backup for safety, to 1 sensor. So you can imagine, because it's a brake system, it's very important. If something goes wrong, people might die. So the quality levels are very high for this sensor. So then Six Sigma comes into mind, because if we produce, for instance, in this case, you see a capability graph on the right with data from 1,000 sensors. And what you can see here on the bottom, we found no sensors out of specification. All these sensors were okay. However, we can also see, applying statistics, that if we produce 1 million sensors, we would find 1,500 out of specification. Doesn't mean people get killed if this is a sensor that is out of specification, but still, it's out specification, and automotive is very strict and very tough. I got a lot of audits from people, from companies that were buying these kind of products, and if we show this data, it's not good. So quality management, very important for the automotive. And other sectors can learn from the way automotive does quality. Okay, that's for me for the presentation and the 2 cases. So the first level 3 case study, and the second case was about a level 4 project. I would like to get a little bit more about the certification. Milena can help me out maybe with this. Because we as an LSSA, we have the objective to bring Lean and Six Sigma in the world. It's there already, but many people talk about it in a different way. We see many training companies developing their own exams. So if somebody calls themselves a green belt or a black belt, it doesn't necessarily mean the same. So we think that we should compare to each other and talk about to each other at the same level. So we developed in 2009 with 2 universities and a couple of training and consultancy firms funded by the European Union, along 2 years, a standard for certification, body of knowledges. We were also in contact with the ASQ. At that time, ASQ only had Six Sigma, so we added Lean. We now provide these body of knowledges and certification to training organizations around the world through companies like Exin. But we also have a lot of content available that training organizations can use. So we have books. We have the books there in the lobby, on our booth. But we also have a vanilla slide deck available that can serve organizations. We have e-learning. We don't apply e-learning ourselves. We do that through the training organizations. So if training organizations find this interesting, they can get a license to give to their students. And we have 3 certifications, the yellow, green, and black belts. And it's a 2-step process. You can do theoretical certification, but of course, the practical certification is even more important because it's like driving a car. If you know how to drive a car, you get your license, you still have to learn then how to drive it. So for the green belt, we ask for 1 project, for the black belt 2 projects, and if you have submitted that projects, you can call yourself the full green belt and the full black belt. So that's from this session. There is some time for Q&A. So if people have questions, then they can ask. They can also come to our booth and ask the questions to me and Milena ourselves. Milena, can you come up with me? Because we also have something to share, I think.
Alguém, vocês viram, se ele perguntou se tem perguntas de alguns de vocês a respeito da palestra. Uma salva de palmas, senhoras e senhores. Pega aquela mesa melhor, quer ver? Espera aí. Fazer o seguinte, eu estou vindo aqui para cá. Sorteio assim, quem sabe faz ao vivo, chega, pega aqui o negócio. Aqui, ó, minha caríssima. Pronto. Sorteio. Fala que vai ser sorteado para mim, Milena. Pode anunciar.
Então vamos lá. Valendo aqui, né, uma prova, né, o exame internacional. Um de yellow, um de green e um de black belt, são 3 kits, acompanhados dos seus devidos livros, né? E se tiver, eu não sei se pode ter alguém que estava aqui somente ontem, mas se tiver alguém hoje, inclusive, eu digo que já aproveita e já dá uma assinada também, uma autografada. E acabei de ser informada pelo Clóvis que ele pediu para incluir dentro, né, do green e do black uma vaga no curso que ele vai fazer de revisão de preparatório. Porque caso a pessoa realmente já tenha aí feito o curso anteriormente, só a revisão. Então, a gente vai ter o curso, a prova e o livro. Ok? É isso?
É isso, vamos lá.
Vamos lá.
É uma roleta aqui digital.
65, vamos ver quem que é.
Número 65, vamos ver.
Yellow, deixa eu já marcar aqui. Marcos Miyashiro.
Marcos Miyashiro. Está presente? Vem para cá, Miyashiro. Salva de palmas. Eu gosto do sorteio quando tem os sorteados. Aliás, eu vou depois anunciar. Lembra da Alexa de ontem? A nossa caríssima vencedora não veio. Acho que eu vou ter que sortear de novo para vocês hoje. Se não aparecer, eu vou conversar com o PMI lá. A gente faz para quem está aqui, eu, né? Vamos lá.
O green agora?
Green Belt, vamos lá. Número 35, vamos ver quem é. Nicolas Moreno. Grande. Fica já. Entrega o Miyashiro aqui, por favor. Tá bom, então tá bom. Aí já separa, Miyashiro. Nicolas, fica do lado do Miyashiro. Fica aqui do meu lado, do lado do nosso palestrante. Fica pra cá. Aqui. Agora Black Belt, né? Eu quero ver todo mundo ansioso. Black Belt número, atenção. Uau. Número 1. Primeiro registro, vamos ver. Vanessa Lancelotti. Está aqui? Grande, Vanessa. Olha que beleza. Pode subir, Vanessa, no palco. Obrigado. Agora você tem que separar aqui, menina. Vamos lá. Isso. Vamos lá, eu seguro um, veja qual é.
Deixa eu ver. Pelo peso, esse aqui é o do Black, porque o livro
É grande? É mesmo?
Vamos ver, segura aqui pra mim.
Beleza. Ah, tá bom. Eu segurei esse daqui. Vamos lá.
Vamos conferir? É isso mesmo. Olha só.
Isso. Vamos lá, veja quem é agora pro...
Vamos lá. Segura aqui. Esse aqui é o Yellow.
Yellow?
Quem que foi o Yellow?
Né, foi o minha filha, isso. Parabéns. E aí sobrou,
E
por
aqui?
exclusão, é?
E o voucher de vocês também está aqui dentro, tá? Com o código direitinho, com todas as informações.
Então o voucher está já presente, tudo certinho. Muito feliz que o sorteio é legal quando todo mundo está aqui, né? Vamos lá. Todo mundo bem na frente ali, todos. Uma salva de palmas, senhoras e senhores. Milena. Vamos lá. Aí, isso aí. Beleza? Sorriso X. Parabéns.